I wasn't really a rower until I came to Hong Kong because I was a rugby guy. And then when I came to Hong Kong in 1982, and literally we turned up at the police training school and Paul Widdowson, who was a big rower at the time, just said, "You rowed?" "Yeah, you rowed." He went, "Right, you're coming rowing." And that was it. That was it. So that was 1982 March. And that started off my rowing again in Hong Kong. And then been rowing now 43 years.
Chris， 當初參加警察賽艇隊嘅時候，你哋係喺邊度進行訓練㗎？
Because I was at the police training school at that time, we used to go down to Middle Island. It was very basic, a wooden hut on the beach. And we just rowed out of there. Clubhouse on the hill, I think, and you go up there afterwards. And these guys were, well, they were my heroes. These guys were really hard guys, in the police. And they go, "Right, come on, we'll go up there." We'd just do silly stuff like one-arm pull-ups off the bar, off the roof, and then they'd say, "Right, drink beer." And it was crazy times. People were just so into their fitness.
當時警察賽艇俱樂部都好活躍，你哋有組織參加過乜嘢嘅比賽呢？
At that time, Paul Widdowson, Peter Kedwood, Jim Walker, all these guys would go overseas, and I think even as early as in the early 90s, they would go on tour and they'd race in usually the UK. They'd race in Nottingham and down in London and take part in various regattas. The first time I actually went to a regatta was one in Calcutta in '93, but that was part of the yacht club, and again in Sri Lanka. We did so. When we went overseas, we raced there. So I never actually went on tour with these guys, but they would do fantastic things. They'd go and tour India and go to Calcutta and Mumbai and then down to Sri Lanka on a 3-week rowing tour.
早期城門河嘅水質比較差，你嘅記憶中城門河係點樣㗎？
It was awful. The river was just awful. It was black. But the river, there was so much pollution coming down from the river that the river was black, and there'd be dead animals coming down the river, and I mean it was pretty disgusting. You certainly didn't want to fall in, but it was great fun. I mean it's a brilliant course, you know. It's what, 2K, 3K. You didn't go much past the far end though. Back in the day, you'd certainly keep within the first 2K. I think the water just got so nasty at the other end.
隨住河道嘅改良，你依家覺得條河係咪好咗呢？
It's so much better. I mean, it's so much better than it ever was. So the infrastructure around Sha Tin now is actually really fantastic. You know, I went to Durham in the UK, and the river there is literally an oxbow like this, and there's overhanging branches going into the river and things like that. We went back there, and it was just a nightmare. I just couldn't navigate around the narrow river, right? It was just awful. So it was actually nice to come back to Hong Kong and
It's spoiled by the
straight river and the width.
你多年嚟都有參與賽艇訓練，期間你有冇停止過呢種嗜好呢？
I mean, I sort of went from triathlon, but I was always rowing, and I was always erging. I always found an erg as a real means of fitness. So I'd always do that, then I'd sort of spin in and out of rowing. I stopped rowing for about 2 to 3 years when my kids were born, and then I got back into it, and then it became sort of my sport of choice after that.
你係一個運動嘅愛好者，從來都冇停止過訓練。可以分享一下你依家嘅訓練安排嗎？
I usually get out even now I'll do a Saturday morning, I'll do maybe a Monday afternoon, I'll do a Wednesday evening. So I try to get on the water at least 3 times a week if I can.
Okay.
But most days I erg. I must erg 5 days a week. I'm getting old now, so I actually believe when you get older you've got to do a lot more sport. So I actually do about 2 workouts a day. I mix it up. So there's always a rowing component, but then I always do, let's say, a swim. I swim 3 times a week. I run twice a week, but I do weights. I used to do a lot of weights when I was young. I stopped doing weights. And now I'm doing weights again. I'm finding it really good. My performance is improving.
運動除咗賦予你嘅健康之外，你認為運動帶咗乜嘢俾你呢？
Sport is my life. If I don't do something, I get quite anxious. Not anxious, but sort of I can see I'm worked up. And my wife just says, "Oh, go out and do something." It's just part of my life. I find that once again at my age, you know, if you have a beer, you realise you've got to do a little bit more sport to sort of offset the beer, else this gets too big. So you've got to keep on doing that. But sports given me so much in terms of everything in Hong Kong. It's, you know, I joined the yacht club. All my friends are in the yacht club. All my sport was in the yacht club. My kids joined the yacht club, and sport's integral to your life. So rowing became my sport of choice, and I was hoping that my son would get into it. Yeah, in our family, sport is very important. It's something that keeps us all fit and healthy.
作為一個俱樂部嘅資深成員，除咗參與運動訓練，你認為帶領同埋成全係咪其中一個好重要嘅元素呢？
It's so important because when I was in the club back in the UK, and even when I first started in Hong Kong, the older guys were not just the older guys, they were also the coach and also the mentor. So here was I in Hong Kong at age 22, new environment, didn't know anything. These guys help you through everything. They were like your daddy who was here rather than overseas. So for to me, raising the youth and developing the youth is so important, and I think it's important for older guys like us with the experience to mentor these guys through, to coach them if we can, or not even just be coaches, to be there, and when they're going through studies or difficulties, you can be there, they can talk to you, because sometimes, you know, it's very difficult to talk to your parents, but if you have a rapport with an older guy, a coach or someone, then it's good, you can bounce some ideas off and get through life. So I think we have a lot to offer. So yeah, I get involved all the time. I help Dai Ming with Grace. We help some of the kids from the drug rehabilitation center in Shik Mun. And I also chair the youth development program for the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club. I think it's in very, you know, I mean, I'm a big churchgoer like Dai Ming, so I also run a youth group back in Sai Kung where I live for older people, actually, from people 25 to 35. And we're going through a really tough time in the world at the moment with the economy and everything. So once again, you're just talking them through all this stuff and just saying, hey, look, life's okay, life's up and down, you'll be fine. And yeah, it's important that we as elders help the youth.
Yacht Club 有自己嘅青少年發展計劃，你哋嘅計劃設定係點樣㗎？
Well, we're very aware that the HKCRA has its own programs, right? It's mainly the international schools, but also we're trying to get the more local schools involved now. So we run ECA programs, so after school activity. That's where the parents will usually pay for their kids, and you can get access to coaches and rowing. Then the whole idea is that if they, because we try to promote a love of rowing. If you like rowing, that's what it's all about. So once they get to a certain level, if we think that actually they're good and they're enjoying it, then we have another level, which is called the YDP, Youth Development Program. And that's where they're going to a higher level and they commit to a certain training program and maybe some events.
Yeah.
And then the whole idea of that is when they get to that level, hopefully the HKSI will see them and then they might go to the squad. Or if they're going to school overseas, they may get picked up by college or whatever. We do that. But now we've just had some donation by an old yacht club member, basically identify kids from underprivileged backgrounds as part of these two programs, and then also mentor them. So bringing the two things together. So bring them into rowing, and then maybe these kids aren't academic, or maybe they don't want to go to college, whatever, but then members of the yacht club the yacht club has a very wide membership, and these people can also take them into their companies, give them apprenticeships and work them. So that's something we're working on at the club. The yacht club's vision is to be the best sailing and rowing club in Asia.
多年嚟參加賽艇運動，你有乜嘢難忘嘅經驗想同大家分享下？
Actually, all three revolve around my big mate Mark Sharp. Probably 98, 98 championships, where I, myself and three of the guys, we won the Open 4-. And Steve Redgrave was here after the Olympics, right? So that must have been 2000. We had a picture with Steve Redgrave, and I'm carrying my son. So that's very special, you know, my crew and my little boy. And then my fun one was, this must be back in the 90s, where Mark was at the Hong Kong Sports Institute, and there was me, I was doing triathlon at the time, and then there was another guy called Mike Wright, who was an Olympic swimmer at the SI. Big tall guy. And then we had one rower from the club, and we raced in the 4-, and I think it was the national champs. And we were so bad. It was so bad. I mean, we think these guys were awesome athletes, but couldn't row. We must have caught a crab every 100 meters coming down the river. And we were beaten by the Dyson Girls' School B squad or something like that. It was so bad. So I always remember those three things that, you know, that was just the worst row ever here.
對教導青少年隊員，你有乜嘢心得呢？
Because they seem to have the wrong concept of it. It's all, I'm big, I'm strong, let's go for it. And just trying to teach them that, look, it's all about getting the boat to move and stop pulling the boats, stop pulling so hard and whatever. And so I try to educate them of the fact that, look, if you can get, especially if you're in a quad or even in a double, right, and if you get it right, once you get it right, the whole feel of the row, you'll never feel anything like it. Everyone says that rowing's like ballet, and if you get it right, it's just beautiful. There's no doubt that you have to be tough, and I think, you know, when you see these young kids and they see a good crew working on the water, And and these guys, rowers. I mean, fit rowers like Chun, right? I mean, they look good. I mean, they're fit and they look healthy and whatever. And when you see those guys and the boat moving, and once again back to mentorship, you can see these kids going, wow, I'd like to be like that sort of.
對香港賽艇隊嘅發展，你有乜嘢嘅睇法呢？
To be honest, Chun, here he is in the World Championships now, a silver medal in the lightweight. Great step. So that's one step. So the next step is going to be having really competitive crews at the Olympic level. And that's going to be tough, right? Because of the physiology of most of us here in Hong Kong. The indigenous Hong Kong people are not big in the lightweight category. So it's heavy. It's all heavyweight, right? So we've got that disadvantage. But I think Hong Kong can actually go up. I think it can really compete at the Olympics. It's got a great base here, and the support you're getting from the government and everything. The trouble is, it's just not a core sport. So I think, like every sport's built on the pyramid, right? You've got to get more people from the grassroots, and then, of course, as the level gets higher, your pyramid, you can have a better quality of person at the top. But we've got to continue to work on the grassroots. Back to what you were talking about, we've got to get more people in the development programs. This, get them to get involved rowing, get more participation, and da. We'll get there in the end, I think. What, 5 years? Do you reckon?
Chris， 你對運動嘅熱情，大家都會感受到。呢份熱血係建基於啲乜嘢嘅呢？
Well, to me, it's fundamentally about being healthy, and there's a whole component about being healthy. So. There's a book out by an American doctor called Longevity. It talks about that you're going to die. Unfortunately, you're going to die. But most people, their lives go like that. And he goes, what you have to aim to do is make your life longer and fitter. So you are going to die, but you're like that. And then the days you get older and less competent is when, it's very short. So that's my philosophy, but I think it's more, sport is absolutely important to it, especially when you get older, to my age. You've got to have your muscle, you've got to have all that, or else the bones won't take all the weight and things like that. So you've got to have that going. But it's also about your mindset, it's all about psychological, it's all about having no pressure. I have my own business, so there's pressure, but then I have a beer, so it's, but I don't drink too much, but I have a beer, and it's just getting that whole balance correct. And that balance changes as you get older. And different. When you're younger, you can do more exercise, right? And you can eat more. When you get older, you can't eat more, and you probably can't do anything. So you've just got to keep that balance there, and then life will be good.
Yeah.